I wasn't really planning to stream today, but then the news broke that Cesaro had left the WWE, no past tense, already gone, and suddenly my phone started blowing up with messages. So I decided, let's do a show, let's talk about the reasons for this, because suddenly there's a lot of news to talk about. Hi, I'm Tom Colohue. Today I'm going to talk about Cesaro and of course answer any questions you guys have, as well as talking about any extra news that may come up during the show. I'm going to be talking quite a bit about Cesaro leaving, why he left, the contract offer that was on the table, what happened a year ago when he supposedly had been offered a new contract, and a little bit on the future of UpUpDownDown, which is in question now that 3/4 of the party are gone. Thank you very much, Moxie, for the 67 bits to start us off. Right, before I jump in, I want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's already here. We already have 9 likes on the YouTube video and 8 viewers. We've got plenty of people in on Twitch as well. We've got quite a few questions coming in on YouTube. I will get to them just after I share the news. And I'm probably going to take this video out, clip it, upload it to YouTube separately as well tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that and watch it if you can. So let's jump straight into it. Cesaro has left the WWE. He did have a contract offer on the table, however he had no intention of signing it. By the sounds of it, the news that he supposedly signed a contract this time last year was not true. He did not sign a new contract, however there was an option for an extension, so he did extend by a year or so. This is one of the main reasons that we saw the push that we did for Cesaro, the WrestleMania match against Seth Rollins, starting to build at the Royal Rumble, and going forwards, of course, that led into a feud, however brief, with Roman Reigns over the Universal Championship. This is the closest Cesaro has ever gotten to the top gold, literally the closest he has ever gotten. However, there were long-term problems that the management team had with Cesaro. It wasn't a case of being annoyed with the man himself. It wasn't a case of thinking that he couldn't succeed. But Vince McMahon never truly believed that Cesaro had really gotten over with the audience. He was waiting to hear Cesaro chants when Cesaro wasn't wrestling, and it never came, is what I'm hearing basically from the man himself. Sorry, from people close to the man himself, not from the man himself. I misspoke there. Not from the man himself, from people close to the man himself. For Cesaro's part, apparently, the offer on the table wasn't good enough, and this doesn't necessarily mean money, even though the money wasn't particularly good either. Under Nick Khan's stewardship, a number of people have had to take pay cuts. But it wasn't the money that really made it happen. It was essentially the lack of push. Cesaro did not get pushed to a degree that he himself was happy with. Thank you again, Moxie, for 14 more bits over on Twitch. Thank you kindly. Cesaro was looking for consistency in his push. He was looking for fun. He was looking to be given things that he could sink his teeth into and enjoy. However, he was continually booked as an afterthought. Thank you once again, Moxie, for 64 more bits. Thank you very kindly for that. Because Cesaro was never given any sort of clear direction, his interest started to waver. This became worse when we started seeing problems with UpUpDownDown. Because Cesaro's focus mostly on staying in the company was just basically hanging out with his friends, those friends are very clear to see. People like Sheamus, he enjoyed hanging out with. People like Drew McIntyre, he enjoyed hanging out with. But the cream of the crop, as it were, was the party, the small group that worked with UpUpDownDown, mostly during COVID, to become probably the biggest draws in wrestling gaming. That would be, of course, Adam Cole, Tyler Breeze, Cesaro himself, and Xavier Woods. Moxie cheering one more time, another 60 bits. You're spoiling me today, sir. Cesaro has had to watch Adam Cole walk away. He's had to watch Tyler Breeze be fired. He's had to watch Xavier Woods get increasingly frustrated to a point that UpUpDownDown simply not receiving the love that it used to. Things have changed for UpUpDownDown. Moxie throwing more at me. You really are spoiling me. 118 bits and then a further 12. Thank you kindly, Moxie. I very much do appreciate that. So, with the party, things have changed. And with that in mind, Cesaro, from best I can tell and best I'm being told, simply didn't enjoy his time in the WWE anymore. There was an assumption from the company that he would just continue. That he wouldn't wouldn't necessarily have an issue with just continuing. Just continuing to create content, continuing to perform for UpUpDownDown, continuing to perform for the WWE. The WWE essentially assumed that Cesaro didn't want to go anywhere. The offer on the table was low. It wasn't particularly good, and certainly compared to people such as AJ Styles and Randy Orton, the money was nowhere near top level. The push on offer was not particularly strong, and Cesaro wasn't happy with that. Moxie, thank you once again. And oh, sorry, no, that's just changed the thing. But thank you again for all the bits, mate. Appreciate that. And Cesaro was not happy with UpUpDownDown. Essentially, the things that Cesaro really used to enjoy aren't there anymore. Now, the questions are being asked as to what happens next for Cesaro. And I think this one's very, very clear. Wherever the hell he wants to go is where he'll sign next. Cesaro is a top quality wrestler. He's a very recognisable face, and his matches really get the crowd alive. There's always been in the WWE's eyes a bit of difficulty marketing him, but WCW said that about Steve Austin way back when. Cesaro for me can walk into any company and be a top name. I want to see him in New Japan. As I've said of many people, I find it much more likely he will go to AEW and join that group of mid-carders over on AEW, such as Miro, Andrade, Malachi Black, Christian, and the like. He'll be performing week in, week out. He'll be wrestling Punk, he'll be wrestling Daniel Bryan, he'll be putting people over, and he'll be a staple of AEW Rampage. That is what I expect to see going forwards for Cesaro. Now, as always, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to start answering all of your questions, or as many of your questions as I possibly can, so let's get to it. Starting catching up a little bit on the Twitch. Sean says, hello Tom. Hello Sean. WrestleConnect, I'm disappointed you didn't break this, Tom. Me too, mate, me too. If I'd known ahead of time, I definitely would have shared it, but unfortunately this is one that I just didn't know ahead of time. I didn't know ahead of the initial report, which came from PW Insider, has been confirmed by a number of other outlets since. This news I was able to confirm pretty quickly myself, which is why I'm running with it here and sharing the news that I have. Cesaro is a very, very talented man who will go very, very far. And as much as I want to be that guy who sits here and says, "Yo, yeah, I knew, I just didn't say anything," I'm not that guy. Other people are that guy around me. I'm not that guy. Vitaly says hello. Hello, Vitaly. Sean asks, how unfortunate that this news of Cesaro leaving comes a day after it was revealed that AJ Styles signed a new contract that was apparently a big money deal. It was a big money deal. They paid high to keep him, and they, by the sounds of it, didn't have him working every date. But there was a lot more to Cesaro leaving than just money. From what I can tell, Cesaro was offered a lot. Not a huge amount, but a lot. Sean says Buddy Matthews is all elite. He is indeed. Jay Quick says I think Cesaro ends up in AEW or Impact, maybe the reformation of the Kings of Wrestling. AEW seems the most likely scenario. Jay Quick says, do you see Xavier Woods ever leaving, especially if Breeze and Cesaro end up in AEW with Cole? Right, I'm going to be very careful with what I say here. I just want to be clear. I'm going to be very careful with what I say here. News coming out of the WWE is that Xavier Woods and the New Day are less happy than they have ever been in the WWE. I have said many times in the past, the one person you should not piss off is Xavier Woods. Since then, you've fired or released a lot of his friends. A lot of his friends. So I can't say whether that happens one way or the other, but it may be because I'm being very careful. Megan says, he's the kind of guy I can see being the centre of a bit of a bidding war. Oh, absolutely. He will definitely go to the highest bidder who can offer him wrestling elsewhere as well. I suspect he'll get a hybrid deal. And Sean is saying, SRS confirmed that Charlotte versus Ronda will main event night 1 of WrestleMania. Well, I heard Ryan Satin say we'll definitely be on night 1. For Sat to immediately jump in with something else is interesting. I definitely expected that, or like I said, the news ahead of Ronda re-signing was that night 1 main event would be Becky versus Bianca. This, of course, has now changed, so we'll see how it plays out. Now, to catch up on the YouTube side, if you are watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit that thumbs up. Every like gives us a chance to grow, and we only need 26 new subscribers, just 26 to reach monetization, so please consider hitting like. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing as well. As I say, every subscription gets us a little bit closer to that monetization. I very much appreciate it. OG Crush says he left WWE. He walked away despite expectation from the WWE that he would still work for SmackDown. His contract had expired, he was free to go, and he chose to do so. Sai T says, thanks for doing these as always. No worries, Sai, thank you very much for joining me. Ed Fry says, hopefully no trolls today. I won't be around. I'll keep an eye. Trolls suck. WWE and Thomas fans said, I can't believe it. After all those years, Cesaro is gone. But hey, Claudio is returning. He is indeed. Likely names for Cesaro back when he goes to anywhere other than WWE would be Claudio. The name Cesaro is trademarked by the WWE. Steve at SCW says, get my question in early for you, Tom. Where do you think Cesaro will go next? I do believe I've covered that. I do believe AEW is the most likely scenario. Gary says, I can't wait to see where he ends up. I'd love to see him in New Japan fighting Suzuki, Takagi, Ishii, Ibushi, Cobb, etc. Maybe back to Noah for some tours, reuniting with Chris Hero. I definitely want to see Daniel Bryan and Cesaro in a G1. That would just be magical, and I can't wait to see it. Also, to be fair, that may be part of the Jay White deal. David Leary says, hello everyone. Hello, David. Simon is talking about the political situation with Ukraine. I'm going to keep that out of the conversation today, but I do support Ukraine. That's my position on that. Daniel Borelli says, wow, Claudio did it. He left WWE. So proud of him. Yeah, he stood by his guns and he walked away, which of course was entirely his choice. Entirely something he wanted to do and entirely his right to do so. It is entirely up to him what he does, of course, and this was certainly an opportunity to make a mark elsewhere. Rob says, hello Tom. Boy oh boy, Roman Reigns is really on an island all to himself. He is. Cesaro and Sheamus were probably the only people outside of Drew McIntyre even close to Roman Reigns to actually compete at SmackDown. I think it's also telling how much of SmackDown want to leave. They can tell the show's a lot worse than it used to be. Jermaine says, hi Tom and happy birthday to Megan. Happy birthday Megan from Jermaine. Andrew Quinn says, hello Tom. You called it before anyone else, but apparently WWE are planning Cody versus Seth at WrestleMania 38 and I'm gutted for Cesaro. Yep, news seems to be coming out now that Cody versus Seth is the likely plan for WrestleMania. I did mention this in my last few shows, but one thing I will say to everyone who's maybe coming in here for the first time, my news doesn't get out. My news absolutely does not get out. A number of pro wrestling journalists have in the past called me a liar because they choose to ignore when I get things right. It's that simple. And how many times, even just on my own Twitter recently, have I been publicising the fact that, oh, this news has come out 5 days ago. This news came out 7 days ago. This news came out 2 months ago. You guys have started doing it as well. I retweet you whenever you do that because I fucking love it. Bro says, according to Ryan Satin in an exclusive post, Ronda vs Charlotte is happening on night 1, but there is no mention of it being the main event. Why is that? Is there still hope for Becky versus Bianca? Apparently, it has been confirmed by Fightful that is actually going to be the main event. I expected it might. I really did, but I'll wait for actual confirmation on that. Raleigh? I'm going to say Raleigh. Says, hi Cesaro. Probably not happy he was not in the Rumble. Bit of both. The main reason Cesaro has been off TV recently is because he hasn't signed a contract. That's the main reason he wasn't in the Royal Rumble. They would have featured him, it would have added some star power, but they had no plans to go forward with him because ultimately they were trying to play a bit of hardball. The WWE were trying to say, well, if you don't sign a new deal, we're not going to give you opportunities. And he said, well, if you don't give me opportunities, I'm not going to sign a new deal. And now here we are. And yes, there is no non-compete. He is, at this point, right now, a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. Simon says, Impact or Ring of Honor would be a great fit for Cesaro. AEW is absolutely stacked, bursting at the seams. I don't disagree. As regards AEW. It is absolutely bursting at the seams. But that's what we have, unfortunately. That's what they've put together. And honestly, while I've got a huge amount of talent, I wouldn't necessarily say it's too much so far. Andrew Quinn says, have you had a great day, Tom? Any idea if Taker interrupts someone at WrestleMania 38 of him being inducted into the Hall of Fame? Any update on Cody Raw return? Is it next week? Undertaker will not be interrupting anyone. Why would he do that? He's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. You don't get to interrupt people to do that, to my knowledge. As regards Cody, last update is the same thing I said on Twitter, same thing I've said in the last videos. To my knowledge, he has not formally signed a new contract yet. David Leary says, any news on Johnny Gargano? Still taking some time out, still working out what his next move is going to be. Welcome, Ha. How you doing, mate? Kevin says, I remember SmackDown, Daniel Bryan tried to help Cesaro get a push, but when Daniel Bryan left the WWE, the Cesaro push was over. Very, very telling for me with the WWE that they very much only push you when they want you to sign a new deal. Same thing happened for Nakamura. Kevin says, do you know when Sasha is back on TV? No. The user says, hi mate. Devon Pierce says, it seems that Sasha is back in Orlando. Yes. Steve says, what dream matches would you like to see Cesaro have outside of WWE? Personally, I'd love to see him versus Josh Alexander and also against Jonathan Gresham. I would still like to see more between him and Daniel Bryan, I'll tell you that. CM Punk, I feel, is waiting for a match with Cesaro. But for me, the Bruisers. They've been mentioned earlier. I'm going New Japan. I'm going Shingo Takagi. I absolutely am going Cesaro versus Shingo Takagi. That is just everything I want in wrestling. Wolf Gamer says, I honestly think that Cesaro should go to New Japan. I think it would be interesting. As you can likely tell, I heartily agree. Wrestler Fan says, do you think The Undertaker will appear at WrestleMania 38? Yes. To be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Sean says, I saw something, I believe it was from PW Insider, that said Brock is a favourite to beat Roman at WrestleMania. That's not a report from PW Insider, that's a PW Insider essentially presenting the betting averages, which do place Brock Lesnar currently as the favourite. As we get closer to the show of shows, I expect that to change. Jace Oliver says, Cesaro, I remember when he re-signed with the WWE in the past, he made it clear no one else was offering the money. Now there are places offering the money, wish Cesaro nothing but the best. And that is a fair point, Chase, an absolutely fair point. From what I can tell and from what I've been told, Cesaro wasn't interested in the money. He didn't care about that. He just wanted to enjoy his time there. He wasn't enjoying his time there anymore. The user says, do you still think Cody's returning to WWE? Yes, I do. I think he is. I know he hasn't signed anything yet based on the most recent information. That information is outdated by a couple of days now. Jay Quick says, do you think the WWE is sending a message to Woods? No, because it was not their choice to have Cesaro leave. They wanted Cesaro to stay. Sean says, Jeff Hardy confirmed he is signing with AEW. Now, I did report that way back, as you may have seen me promoting that again, but I formally said that January 28th. Now, Jeff Hardy has distanced himself from that. He's distanced himself from it, but I was saying this well before Jeff actually left the WWE. Regulars here, and regulars way back in my Sportskeeda podcast days, are fully aware that the second Matt Hardy left, I expected Jeff Hardy to follow as soon as he could. He took an opportunity, fair enough. Sonic says, hello, I saw the news, and yes, Cesaro quit WWE. I'm shocked. I hope no one else won't quietly quit WWE this year. They will. They absolutely will. There are 4 or 5 people that I'm aware of who are planning to do this exact same thing. Just quietly run down their contract and move on. just quietly, without any real fuss. There are a lot of people planning to do so. I won't give names, I don't have anything confirmed, and it's not my news to share, but there are definitely plenty of people who are not planning to sign a new contract. Hector Welcome says, do you see this as an amicable release? Essentially, could you see him return later in his career, or was this it for Cesaro and WWE in your opinion at least? It was amicable. The WWE were naturally disappointed, but not necessarily upset. If Cesaro at some point contacted the WWE and said, I want to return, the WWE would bite his hand off for the opportunity. Matthew Ham says, what are the plans for Finn Balor at WrestleMania? Will it be Demon Balor versus Damian Priest? Is that the plan? At the moment, the most likely plan seems to be Finn Balor versus Tommaso Ciampa. That seems the most likely situation at the moment. Failing that, some sort of tag team turmoil match. Right now, they're struggling to come up with something for Finn Balor. Somebody in creative really wants to push him, that is a fact. But that person rarely gets their way, and let's hope that they at least give him something. Kervin says, AEW probably going to sign a lot of talent. I wish AEW would make Rampage 2 hours and no more tape. Me too. Definitely me too. However, that day may not come. They've got the talent for it. They've got the talent to go toe to toe. But here we are. You know? Here we are. A lot of happy birthdays for Megan, our stat queen. For anyone who doesn't know, Megan does stream here on Twitch, doesn't stream on YouTube. If you click on her name, you'll be able to find her account, and you can click follow. She is getting, from what I can tell when I did a big lurk earlier, she's getting the viewership required for affiliate. She just doesn't quite have the followers. So guys, every little helps, and I do encourage everyone who's watching on Twitch to give Megan a follow as well. It does help in a big way to get those follower numbers up. Also, once again, happy birthday, Megan. Simon is saying, Brock Lesnar as a babyface in this run is his best run since his original 02-04 run in the company back in the day. Absolutely tremendous and fantastic in this run. I am really enjoying Brock Lesnar's work. Absolutely loving everything Brock Lesnar is doing right now. I really am. It is fantastic. Matthew Ham says, is Edge versus AJ Styles the plan for WrestleMania? Yep, that is what they're putting together right now. Once again, it's not been officially confirmed, but that is the plan. Jay Quick says, do you think Adam Cole and Cesaro are on the phone? I don't know, but I would imagine they're talking because they're close friends. Same with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins showed some respect, as did Becky Lynch earlier on Twitter, and that was great to see. 1804 is saying, what do you mean Cesaro left? Yeah, he's gone, mate. He left the WWE. He walked away. John says, hey, what was your favourite Cesaro match or moment? Also, this now means 2 winners of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal are still with the WWE. Doesn't quite elevate careers to what they probably thought. No. My favourite Cesaro match was against Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. It was on an episode of Raw and it was just fantastic. I also really enjoyed his work with Sheamus against the Hardys. And I thought the match against Seth was really very good. My favourite Cesaro moment? Beach Ball. Beach Ball. Now, I have interviewed Cesaro, and I may upload some of the audio from that, as I do still have it. And he came across as someone who just wanted to enjoy his time in wrestling. That unfortunately has been taken away from him. Megan says, WWE have tweeted that Charlotte vs Ronda is happening night 1, but no mention of it being the main event. So here's the thing. Minutes after the news broke that Cesaro had left the WWE, Ryan Satin, who works for Fox, got an exclusive. An exclusive is not something he really does anymore because he works for Fox covering the WWE. He's not a backstage journalist anymore. And yet somehow he got an exclusive, and then a couple of minutes after that, I don't know the exact times, I'm saying a couple of minutes, it could be a half hour, the WWE officially confirmed it. Is anyone familiar with the phrase dead catting? Dead catting essentially is what happens when something bad happens for your company image. Donald Trump is a master of the dead cat, for example. But something comes out like Cesaro leaving, that's bad for the WWE. Well, everyone would be talking about it, except we're now getting a little bit distracted by the idea that we're going to get Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey, firstly on night one, but possibly main eventing as well. Suddenly everyone's very distracted. If you're currently watching on YouTube, please do remember that you can hit that like button. It is a big help to the growth of the channel and getting me closer to that monetization. And of course, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. It is a big help to my growth, to the channel, and gets us closer and closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Every little does help. At this point, I am already 300 hours over on watch time. All I need is for new YouTube accounts to click that subscribe. YouTube accounts that haven't already subscribed to click subscribe. 25 of them in total. If we suddenly found 25 accounts on YouTube that all wanted to subscribe to this channel today, I'd be monetized tomorrow. That's where we are right now. This is how close we are. We are literally on the line. 2.5% left of subscribers. Everything else is, if you'll forgive the pun, money in the bank. We are that close. So, if you do have an account that has not subscribed yet, please consider hitting subscribe. And if you can, please hit that like button as well to help us grow and reach new audiences. On Monday, we had a record-breaking show. 47 was the peak viewership on YouTube, a new record. 66 was the peak viewership across both YouTube and Twitch. We were making and breaking records, and I have all of you to thank for that. David Leary is suggesting Cesaro versus Jay White. Cesaro versus Zack Sabre Jr. I would like it, I just don't think Jay White's the right person right now. Super says, do you love House of Black or do you love House of Black? I haven't watched enough House of Black to know if I love House of Black. Wolfgamer says Cesaro versus Shingo would be a fan-freaking-tastic in my honest opinion. Yes. Yes, it would. And we need to see it. Super says, will it be better than Shingo versus Volta? Quite possibly. Quite possibly, yes. Bro says, Fightful has said WWE confirmed it, that they'll main event, yet there is absolutely no mention of it at all, so I'm confused. I'm going to go ahead and no comment on that. Just going to go ahead and no comment. Jermaine says, WWE needs to really fix whatever they did to SmackDown ASAP. They do. Something has gone wrong with SmackDown. Absolutely gone wrong. Darnell says, what's up? What's up, Darnell? How you doing, mate? Kevin says, you saw the comments Dax Harwood made about Shawn Michaels. Yes, I did. And this comes at a time when Shawn Michaels, his stock is rising in the WWE. So it's certainly, it's hitting pretty hard. Ghost also issues a happy birthday for Megan. Also says, second, while I'm a little sad to see Cesaro go, there is a big sense of excitement for his next move. And I can't wait to see where he goes from here. I think now AEW are established enough that we're not really that worried anymore. We're not the ones sitting there saying, oh, well, that's the end of his career, because we know it's not. There's like plentiful evidence that this simply, it is not the case, that we will be losing him, as it were. We're still going to see him wrestle. We're still going to see him wrestle great matches. People have succeeded based on leaving before. So, it's all good news. Super says, Edge versus AJ sounds like a banger. It does, doesn't it? That's why they want it to happen. Matthew Ham says, what are the plans for Riddle and Orton at WrestleMania? I get asked this every show, and every show, unfortunately, it doesn't change. I don't believe they are planning to break them up for WrestleMania. However, that's not a report. That's an opinion. I'm still confident that they're going to be competing for the Tag Team Championships. After all, Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens are now in the way of their Tag Team Championship match against, I nearly said American Alpha, against Alpha Academy. With this in mind, the match between RK Bro and Alpha Academy has been pushed back into at least March. I suspect it's going to be pushed back to Mania. Sean says, can we say Cesaro misused, despite the fact he's a former US champion and a former Raw Tag Team champion? I don't think he's being misused. I think Cesaro has been used very well over his career. He just wasn't being used at the top level as he wanted. Fair enough. By all means, if you're not happy there, move on. See what the opportunities are elsewhere. I think this is going to start being normalized soon. With Cody making the swap back, I feel it's very, very likely that more in AEW are going to start moving. And what we're going to see is a lot of transfer back and forth. Because it's a great way for people to develop in AEW, then WWE bring them in as a huge deal. Or the other way around. They develop in NXT, WWE main roster, then move over to AEW and become a big deal. There are opportunities here for wrestlers to come in and say, look, I was mid-card in WWE, I'm worth this much, what do you reckon you're going to do with me? We'll give you 2 AEW championship shots over the next 5 years, can't promise a championship. Alright, that's good, I'll take it. Alright WWE, I've just come from AEW, they gave me 2 championship shots over 5 years, so they thought I was main event. What do you reckon you can do? Alright, sign on for 4 years. We'll give you a Universal Championship reign, but it'll only be 3 months. You know what? I'll take it. Hey AEW, WWE gave me a 3-month Universal Championship reign. What can you do for me? Oh, well, we see your top level. We'd like to give you a strong run with a TNT title. And tell you what, we're interested. We can't promise anything, but we're going to get you in that main event scene the whole time. Let me think about it. You get that opportunity for negotiation. Much stronger. Kevin says, I hope Stone Cold will be the referee for Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I don't. That sounds awful to me and sounds like it's really dragging away from the fact that 2 guys are just going to beat the hell out of each other. Andrew says, the other day on Raw when they mentioned adrenaline, dashing, smoke and mirrors, I feel like WWE and Cody deal is close. Also, Mania 38 will be absolutely amazing and quality. I cannot wait. I think they're starting to put together a much better card. A much better card than what we were looking at this time, even a month ago. I think they're doing great, and I think that is going to be a big help going forwards. Simon says, are AEW in the red money-wise? They are losing money hand over fist right now. Only way to say it. There's always a troll in there. There's always a troll. Megan says, it's them going, look over here, not over there. Exactly correct. That is exactly what it is, Megan. John Kurosawa says, come on, people, support Tom and subscribe. I agree, John. I agree. Thank you. Super says, are you saying that we should go sub? I'm not saying you shouldn't go sub. I'm saying that if you do go sub, we're this much closer to monetization on YouTube without anyone paying me a damn thing. Andrew Quinn says, another update on Cody's been silent from both ends, Friday and Saturday last week. There isn't an update on Cody. No update on Cody. Matthew Ham says, will Finn Balor win the United States Championship? I don't know. I find it unlikely. Finn Balor, their plans at the moment do not really involve anything, so they're putting things together as best they can. Super says, unlike subscription on Twitch, it's free over on YouTube. It is. You know how you follow on Twitch? Well, if you subscribe on YouTube, it costs you absolutely nothing, and you get me this much closer to monetization. We are 25 people away total. Spider Boss says, does Cesaro have a non-compete clause? He did, however his contract has expired, so it's not in effect. Megan says, imagine if we get Cesaro versus Omega. The day may come. The day may come. Spider Boss says, I would love to see Cesaro and Impact. AEW already have a big roster. They do, and I do feel we'll see Cesaro make a bit of a tour, but AEW are going to try and lock him down. I promise you that. See, what we had was a guy who called himself Hook, and he made what I thought was a decent joke. Says, someone sent me and Mr. Khan knows about Cesaro and is paying close attention. That's alright. But because I didn't read it immediately, what he did was send 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 before I deleted them all, basically saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, like a desperate little shit. Don't do that. Spider-Boss says, since the draft something began to go wrong on SmackDown. Yeah, they basically, a lot of the big stars went over to Raw and then everyone wanted to leave. Get the Tables, welcome sir, says, what's the plan for Rollins at WrestleMania? At the moment, the plan is Cody Rhodes and a loss. But shortly afterwards, it would be a return to the feud with Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. That's what's been said backstage at the moment. Last update I had, Cody Rhodes has not signed a contract with the WWE yet. But they are writing plans out for him, and they are definitely teasing his arrival in WWE. John says, do you think AEW is getting to the point where they are hoarding talent? Yes, I think they have been there for about a year. I think Dark and Dark Elevation, the fact that you have a developmental show for your developmental show, and then a backup show for your actual show, they've got too many. But how do you turn down Cesaro? I kind of get it. Sonic says, the SmackDown Women's Division needs some help, like some serious help. Bring back Asuka and Sasha, call up Io Shirai, Raquel Gonzalez, Kaylee Ray, and Liv had a great match on main event. Go out of your way to watch it. I do think there's going to be call-ups after WrestleMania. In fact, I know there's going to be call-ups after WrestleMania. Quite a few people from NXT will be coming up, basically to clear out route for further down the card. The women's division on SmackDown does need some help. However, I think when you consider that the people at the top right now, Charlotte, Ronda, Sonya, Naomi, Sasha Banks, they could do good things with those 5 women. They just need to do things with those 5 women. Wrestling and Magic says, AEW signs Jeff Hardy. Is it just for a Hardy Boys reunion, or do you think AEW has plans for Jeff? To my knowledge, not officially signed just yet, but they are in talks for it. I suspect we're going to see a tag team. I suspect Jeff Hardy just wants to be around his brother, as I've in fact reported 2 years now that he was missing Matt. And when it comes to AEW plans, well, that's up to Tony Khan. He's the only person who actually plans ahead. Everyone else basically just makes it up as they go along, which has worked out pretty well for them. Daniel says Cesaro should have gotten a world title reign. I do agree. I think they missed the opportunity basically by ignoring him. But if he dethroned Roman, I don't think anybody would have complained. Moneymaker says if they didn't move half the roster to Raw in the draft and take Sasha off TV all the time, maybe SmackDown will be a better show. They didn't move half the roster, what I will say. However, when it comes to moving people over to Raw, sorry, bear with me 1 second. They had to balance it out because they added Brock, they added Becky, and they already had Rollins, Edge, Roman. All the big names were already on SmackDown, with the exception of Charlotte Flair. They had to make some changes. They had to. It's just really damaged SmackDown, because SmackDown was great. You had all the stars and all the great matches. Matthew Ham says, have you heard of any matches that have not been announced for WrestleMania that are set? Still not on that one, though we've already discussed AJ versus Edge. We've already discussed Seth versus Cody and RK Bro versus Alpha Academy. Actor says, Tom, did you see the report that WWE talent is aware of AEW's money problem? Do you think this will inevitably cause less and less WWE talent jumping ship? Or no, especially with all the talent AEW has, considering there's only so much TV time? I did not see a report on AEW's money problem per se, but AEW have been losing money hand over fist for their entire career. The entirety of AEW's lifetime so far, they've been losing money. That is a fact. The plan was essentially put the show out there and over the next 3 years or so become profitable. Then CM Punk became available. Then Daniel Bryan became available. Then Adam Cole became available. A lot of people in AEW are on big money right now. They will not break even by the end of this 3rd year. It doesn't seem that way yet. Changes will have to be made in order for them to actually make money. But at the minute, they are not just losing money, they are losing a lot of money. I want to be clear on that. They're not just losing money, they're losing a lot of money. Simon says Sasha's coming back very shortly. Same with Asuka, but Asuka not sure brand-wise yet. Asuka's return date keeps getting pushed back, and it's making me nervous. You know? It's making me nervous. Asuka's return date just keeps getting pushed back, and it is making me nervous. David Leary says I can watch Tom Colohue 7 days a week. Oh, thank you. That's really lovely to say. Once we get a bit busier, I'll be able to do that. I may consider doing that, is what I should say. But you may notice I'm doing more shows than I ever have before. Because one, there's news, and two, this chat is active enough that I can do that. If I had 15 people here, as I did for a lot of my early spoiler warning shows, the show couldn't last more than 20-30 minutes. It couldn't. It just wasn't possible. But I get more than enough questions now to keep this show going. I was considering stopping about half an hour in because I was running out of questions. Then I spent 3 or 4 minutes talking about my YouTube stuff. That gave me enough time for the questions to build up a little bit. And now here we are, still going 45 minutes in. If there's enough people, there'll be more content. That simple. One day I hope to go full time. And if that happens, then there'll be a hell of a lot of me going on, I'll tell you that. You'll get the 3 branches that I have planned. The wrestling side will get 10 hours a week, good 10 hours a week. The gaming side will get a solid 10 hours a week. The football side will get a solid 10 hours a week. That's the plan. So if you're interested, that's the plan. All you got to do is keep those subscribers coming in, keep those likes coming in, keep those follows coming in on Twitch, and before you know it, I'll be non-stop. Super says, I say misused because we've seen Sheamus versus Cesaro 100 times after their best of 5 series. Yeah, that is fair. You still get good matches out of them, and there was a nice break between them. Matthew Ham says, when will Cody debut, before or after WrestleMania? Depends when he signs. If he signs before Mania, he'll probably debut before Mania. Wrestling and Magic says, do you think Adam Cole will dethrone Hangman? Well, I don't think Adam Cole is going to dethrone Hangman Page. I think MJF is going to dethrone Hangman Page. I have said this before. Yeah, I thought I had a few more questions, but what we've got is just that guy Hook saying a load of shit. Simon says the Bar versus the Shield feud in late 2017 over the Raw Tag Team Championships was absolutely tremendous. Had some bangers with Seth and Mox. They very much did. Easily my favourite work. Megan says, how long until Cesaro is back on Twitch then? I'm going to say 2 hours. 2 hours. Wolf Gamer says, what kind of subs are we talking about? Oh, no, wait, you mean subscriptions. My bad. Wow. Did not see that one coming. No. Matthew Ham says, why didn't Cesaro renew his contract? Because he didn't want to, essentially. The first 8 minutes or so of this show, I covered all of the Cesaro news. So by all means, once we've wrapped up, just spool it back to the beginning and you'll see all of the information there. Jermaine says, hey Tom, any plans for Alexa Bliss at Mania? Yes. And any plans for Damian Priest and the US title at WrestleMania? Yes. Does the WWE know what those plans are? No. So neither do I. Sean says, should Seth beat Roman for the WWE Championship? I think so, yes. I absolutely do. I think we should definitely have, right after WrestleMania, when Roman Reigns is a double champion, the first premium live event, he goes up against Seth Rollins for the WWE Championship and loses. Second one, he goes up against Drew McIntyre for the Universal Championship and loses. Then you can go across and say, cocky fucker. That works for me. Medicine and Magic says Cody will first sign it days before Mania. We don't know that yet. The offer is on the table. It's up to him. Spider Boss says, since it's a triple threat for the tag team titles, is Alpha Academy winning? Yes, I do believe they are. Though it's certainly possible that RK Bro win and we have their rematch at Mania. Plenty of possibilities. Thank you, Montel. Good news. Andrew Quinn says, what do you think of 2K22 graphics? Are you planning to buy the game? Got to wait 11 days till the early access. Honestly, I was strongly considering buying the game when I thought they were doing competitive GM mode. I am much less inclined now. And in fact, GM mode doesn't sound very fun anymore. It's not helping. Sean says that video game is draining AEW. It is. They are losing a lot of money on that video game. Now, they'll probably make quite a bit. However, I don't think an AEW video game is a crossover thing that they actually want. Not all wrestling fans are gamers. And not all gamers are going to want an AEW video game, even if they're not AEW fans. Now, the actual crossover in AEW between gamers and wrestling fans is higher than it is, from my perspective, with WWE. I think they'll sell about as much as the 2K games do. That's my opinion. So I think they'll do well, but I don't think it's enough to cover the cost of your CM Punks. Spider-Boss says, apart from both women's championship matches, is there any other women's match for Mania? There will be a women's tag team championship match, and there will be, it sounds like 2 non-title matches, but I'm waiting to hear more on that. Super says, it'll be profitable when they get a WrestleMania type show. They kind of have done that. They've got big name shows. It's just WrestleMania is WrestleMania. What you don't have is when someone says wrestling, someone else thinks WrestleMania. AEW don't have that. Andrew Quinn says, I feel like with WWE and AEW making video games, I miss the old TNA games. I feel like Impact need to make a new video game. Unfortunately, video games at the moment for wrestling, they're considered potential liabilities. Video games have not been as profitable as they have been in the past. So a lot of companies are sort of walking away from them. That's why we're not seeing tie-in games for movies that we used to see in the past. Nowadays, with your AAA games, people would rather buy them. They would rather buy a Last of Us Part 2 than a tie-in game for WWE. A tie-in game for, I don't know, Uncharted. Let's say they made a game based on the Uncharted movie. Let's just it's the last movie I've seen, so let's say they took the Uncharted movie, right, and they made it into a game. I think people would rather play like Last of Us, like a Naughty Dog game, than like an Uncharted game. You know, you don't see those game tie-ins for movies anymore, like Uncharted. I think people would just rather play the big AAA games like a Naughty Dog game. Moneymaker says, is Sasha going to have a WrestleMania match? Every single show I've said yes. Yes, she will. They just don't know who she's going to face. Sonic says, Asuka is due to return at the end of this month. The end of this month is in 4 days. So that means it must be SmackDown. Is that what you're saying, mate? Kevin says, I'm going to be honest, WWE have no plan for Veer or Asuka. It doesn't look that way. But to be fair, Veer is getting over on a very small salary without actually featuring. So, it's kind of cool. John says, full time will be awesome. That is my hope for WrestleScope. I wish you all the best of it, mate. As soon as I'm able to monetize, I'll be looking at channels trying to get there and doing what I can for them. First things first, getting that monetization. Wolf Gamer says, I cannot wait for Impact tonight, especially after the ending to No Surrender. I hope you're excited, mate. Impact's been doing great things recently. Dimitar says, they need to add someone from NXT to SmackDown. I say Io or Kota. I definitely want to see Dakota Kai on SmackDown. Dakota Kai, not so keen. Super says, imagine if Cody goes to the WWE and he still gets booed. I think he'll be treated like a returning hero because it's a coup. They're taking one away from AEW. Big news. Sean says, I hope Alexa versus Liv or Rhea is at WrestleMania. That's what I've been saying and that's what I've been hoping. That's not necessarily what I expect, but it's certainly what I hope for. It makes a lot of sense for Alexa versus Rhea based on that Elimination Chamber. But I think when it comes to a quality match, Alexa versus Liv would be slightly better. You know who I want Rhea Ripley to face. You know what I want to see. Rhea Ripley versus Drew McIntyre. That's what I want. Spider-Boss says Sasha versus Lita and Bayley versus Trish would be awesome. Yes, it would. Also as a tag team. Ooh, Simon gives us an update. Rangers beat Borussia Dortmund. Bloody hell. Wow. Jermaine says, hey Tom, here is one of the problems. Not adding more women to the SmackDown women's roster. That's not going to fix it if you don't use the women on the roster. Look at Xia Li, she still hasn't wrestled a match. Yeah, they gave her what I felt was a good gimmick that does not translate to wrestling. It doesn't translate to wrestling whatsoever. In any way, shape or form. I believe she has had a match, it's not a singles match. She wrestled a tag team match alongside Naomi. But they're not using her. They're not using her at all. There's a lot of people they're not using for no reason. Give us a Shotzi Xia Li program. Brief one. 4-minute matches. Just you know, for the next 3 weeks. Give us something. Matthew Ham says, what's the plan for SmackDown tomorrow as well as Raw next week? I don't have the script, so I would not be able to tell you. That's not true, Super. Spider-Boss says, it wouldn't surprise me if Nikki Ash and Doudrop became a tag team for Mania. That's not a bad shout. Those two would actually make a solid pairing. And it would definitely make Nikki Ash relevant again. She's someone I think could really do with moving to SmackDown. Demetaz is interesting. Seems like they're doing Sasha versus Charlotte versus Natty on the house shows that don't feature Ronda. Yeah, Natalya is being used sort of as a proxy. Also, I have a big question. Where's Shayna Baszler gone again? Where the hell is she? She's vanished again. Kevin was disappointed about The Last of Us 2. You're not alone. The Last of Us 1, I played it in one sitting on stream when I hit, God, what was it? I think it was 250 followers on Twitch. I played the entirety of The Last of Us in one sitting. Ended up being an 11.5-hour stream. Genuinely a great day. I loved it. Would happily do it again. Maybe with Last of Us 2. I'll get back to gaming streams at some point, I promise. But really, Last of Us 2 didn't quite hit the highlight for me. And Sonic says more like Monday Night Raw because February is a small month. We don't know if it's Raw or SmackDown, but it'll be interesting to see her return. Last rumours I saw was Asuka for the end of March. Last rumours I saw before that was Asuka for the end of February. Last rumours I saw before that was Asuka for the Royal Rumble. I keep being told she's coming back next week. Nope, next week. Nope, next week. They're pushing it back. Andrew Quinn says, I would love Priest versus Kane, but it won't happen. Only reason I said that is because Priest was the one who eliminated Kane in the Rumble in 2021 in the Thunderdome. But I wouldn't mind Priest facing anyone. Damian Priest, I feel, has too many options. Just too many options. He can wrestle basically anyone. Balor makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, what about Austin Theory? Where is he? Matthew says, why was Cesaro unhappy with WWE? Once again, Matthew, I answered all of this in the first 8 minutes of this video, so once we've wrapped up, just skip it back to the beginning. Watch that first 8 minutes. I jumped straight into it in the first couple of seconds. You can catch up on everything there. And Dimasar says, I don't think Vince likes Shayna. That kind of comes across. Spider-Boss says, if Ronda wants to work with Shayna, does that mean Shayna gets a push? Yes, it does. Ronda Rousey wants to work with Shayna Baszler. That is clear. That's one of the reasons they had their engagement at the Royal Rumble. There is very likely at some point going to be a feud between Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Maybe sooner rather than later. That may be an immediately after WrestleMania sort of thing, with Ronda retaining while she builds towards other people, such as hopefully Sonya. But at the moment, Shayna Baszler is just not being used in any way, shape or form. She's supposed to be in tag matches at live events. I want that to actually happen now. Steve says, give us more Shayna Baszler. Should have been a star after her run in NXT. You are not wrong. Dimitar says, Priest versus Seth would be dope. It would. Seth Rollins has been offered a lot of different matches at WrestleMania, and so far, unfortunately, everyone's just been taken away from him. Dimitar would be happy with Priest versus Seth. Sean says, Ronda versus Shayna at SummerSlam. I think before then, certainly a possibility. There will be a feud. Ronda is determined. And Wolf Gamer says, Vince doesn't like Shayna. You don't say. Well, I am out of questions. Just the 5 minutes before the hours, so happy with that. Sleep would prefer Rousey versus Baszler to Rousey versus Charlotte. I wouldn't personally, not yet, but we can have both. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined me. As I say, we are currently there for watch time. We are there. So all we're waiting on now, in order to monetize, is subscribers. We are currently sitting at, let me just get my number up, 976, which means we need exactly 24 more in order to monetize. If you're able to do so, please subscribe, and if you have any other accounts that you're not using, maybe subscribe to them as well. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We are this close, and as we continue to grow, I continue to owe you a lot of thank yous. No Dimitar, no news on Sasha. Once there's an update, I'll let everybody know, but I'm not the most well-connected man in the world. I'm not going to have an update on Sasha Banks in every single show. It's not going to happen. Sean says, see you tomorrow. Thank you, Sean. And to you as well. We will be back tomorrow for more spoiler warning and a live SmackDown watch party. Until then, I just want to say, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon.